Central Station in Sydney, Australia sits on ground with a very long memory, and that is why so many haunting stories cling to it. Before it became one of the busiest railway hubs in the country, this land was the Devonshire Street Cemetery, which was consecrated in 1820 and became Sydney's main burial ground. More than 30,000 bodies were buried there, and the cemetery was divided by walls into different religious sections, including Catholic, Church of England, and Jewish areas. By 1867, the cemetery had closed, and over time it became badly neglected, with old reports saying bodies were packed into nearly every bit of ground, even beneath the paths. When the government took the land in 1901 to build Central Station, the clearing of the cemetery happened fast and imperfectly. Families were given only 2 months to claim their relatives, and only about 1/3 of the monuments were taken by families. The rest were removed by the government, which used a custom steam tramway to carry remains away to places like Rookwood and Bunurong, now called Pioneer Memorial Park. During that rushed process, skeletons were sometimes packed 10 to a coffin, which tells you how rough and incomplete the relocation really was. That history matters, because archaeologists now agree that human remains absolutely still lie beneath Central Station. The best-known ghost lore at Central Station gathers around the old underground ghost platforms, numbers 26 and 27. The spirits in these stories are not neat-named characters with tidy legends, and that actually makes the reports feel stranger. The most famous haunting is the sound of children playing and laughing somewhere in the dark below, even when nobody is there. People call them the ghost children, and folklore connects those sounds to the many infants and children once buried in the cemetery before medicine was advanced enough to save so many young lives. Other witnesses have described hearing the low murmur of family conversations underground, like a crowd quietly waiting for a train that never comes. These voices are often described as waiting families, and believers treat them as a kind of residual haunting, almost like grief and daily life somehow soaked into the ground and stayed there. What makes Central Station especially eerie is that reality keeps feeding the folklore. The 1901 exhumation did not remove everything, and modern construction has proved that more than once. In 2019, workers digging for the new Sydney Metro platforms uncovered the intact skeletal remains and legible graveplate of Joseph Thompson, who had been buried in 1858. His descendants were later found, and he was finally reburied properly in 2021. That same year, crews also discovered a forgotten family burial vault linked to the colonial Perry and Ham families, with 11 graves dating back to 1840. Archaeologists say this happened because the workers in 1901 only dug to a certain depth. So deeper graves, burial vaults, and scattered bone fragments still remain in the earth directly under the station and tracks. People often ask whether anyone has properly investigated the hauntings, and the answer is yes, but not in the usual ghost hunting way. Central Station is active, secure, and treated as critical transport infrastructure, so standard paranormal teams are not allowed to run around with meters, radio boxes, or overnight lock-ins. Most past investigations have really been guided visits and first-hand accounts from transport staff, historians, journalists, and officials. During events like Sydney Open, small groups have been escorted into platforms 26 and 27 by historians and transport leaders, including the Director of Operations, where they documented those odd underground sounds and acoustic disturbances. The State Library of New South Wales also explored this history through the Dead Central Project, which mapped old graves against the modern station and used sound installations to help people feel the weight of what still lies below. These days, the closest thing to investigators are urban archaeologists using radar, laser mapping, and archives whenever new rail upgrades begin. And every new project carries the same uneasy truth that Central Station is not only built over history, it is still sharing space with it.